What's your thoughts on government cover-ups or covert societies attempting to control humanity? Do you believe in ancient astronauts, intergalactic communication, or extraterrestrial visitations? Ever had an experience with disembodied spirits or the paranormal universe? Are these subjects fact or fiction? Each week, Tony and Eddie explore these unbelievable realities and beyond. Exclusively on Truth Be Told.
Hello and welcome back to Truth Be Told with Tony and Eddie. I'm your host, Tony Sweet, and with me now is world-renowned psychic, Eddie Connor.
Thanks, Tony. We have back with us a top political analyst and also an author, Roger Stone.
Roger was here a few months ago, and we talked about the current primary season and his book on the Clintons' war on women. But he is back to update us on his thoughts of this crazy election season and his latest book that was just released, Jeb and the Bush Crime Family, the inside story of an American dynasty.
Which I cannot wait to hear about. As always, here on Truth Be Told, we bring you the experts that tell us the truth, whether we want to hear it or not, right, Tony?
That's right, Eddie.
So please help us welcome the one and only author and political analyst, Roger Stone.
All right, welcome, Roger. Back to the show. How you doing?
Thank you very much.
Well, you've had a lot going on since we talked to you last, released a new book. There's a lot going on with the political season. I mean, it's gotten crazy, and so we're glad to have you back.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to be here. We seem to have a little delay, so we'll work with that, I guess.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not hearing on our end, so
I'm not hearing.
Weird. All right. Anyway, I'm delighted to be with you. Yeah, I have cranked out another book, which was strategic, was meant to impact this election. It appears to have done so. I wrote previously a book on the Clinton family, the Clintons' war on women, which is the Oppo dump, as it were, everything you need to know from a research point of view to defeat Hillary Clinton. It's all there. Sex, drugs, sexual assault, intimidation, terror campaigns against women, drug trafficking, drug use, epic greed, thievery, corruption, emails, Benghazi. It's all there.
Right.
And that, I think, will have its ultimate impact in the fall. But then I wrote a book on the Bush family. I'm a native of Connecticut. I actually knew Prescott Bush, the patriarch of the family, who was the U.S. Senator from Connecticut. But before that, he was essentially Hitler's personal banker. I mean, he is the man who arranged the financing to arm the Third Reich, the Nazi war machine. His bank was seized in 1942 by the Roosevelt administration, the Justice Department, and the Treasury Department for treasonous activity, which is reported in the New York Herald Tribune. Now, I had to crawl through the dusty basement in downtown New York and go through boxes of microfiche to find this clipping. But we have produced it, which proves, among other federal records, that the bank was seized. So anyway, the book really dissects Jeb. I think it had an immediate impact on the race. And Jeb is now less important than the overall Bush saga. But remember, George P. Bush, 39-year-old land commissioner in Texas. He's waiting in the wings.
Is he really?
Of course.
Oh, yes. That'll be the next Bush to run for president. And Jeb is very much a part right at the table in the Stop Trump movement, I assure you. So is Barbara Bush, representing her husband, who's not well. And they are all in to stop Trump. You will see a $145 million weekend and next 2-week media flaying of Donald Trump, paid for by associates of the Koch brothers, by Stanley Hubbard and the Ricketts family, who own the Chicago Cubs, and Paul Singer, the hedge fund manager, Norman Brayman, the billionaire Miami car dealer, and there's Bush money there. In fact, Jeb is thinking about transferring about $30 million he has left over to the anti-Trump effort.
Wow.
And so, who are they going to be supporting? I know it ain't Bernie Sanders.
Well, the way I look at it is, and this is somewhat complex, I just wrote a piece on this for Breitbart, but if Trump can be kept under the magic number, I mean, he could still theoretically, with multiple candidates staying in the race and nobody dropping out, including little Marco, Trump gets to the convention with the largest block of delegates, having won plurality in every primary and caucus by and large. Lost a few. He lost Oklahoma, for example, and Texas. But I think Texas was stolen. There's over 600 complaints of voter irregularities now up to 7 counties, and they're uniform. People say they voted for Trump and saw their vote tallied for Marco.
Oh, yeah.
For Marco.
So,
not
you know,
Cruz.
this is Karl Rove in the House? I mean, I don't know.
Well, when I think about this, you know, the Bush family, going back to Prescott, when you said they financed Hitler, can you give us a little more history about where Prescott came from?
Sure. Prescott Bush is his father, Samuel Bush, is a railroad man, a railroad executive, and he makes quite a fortune. But his real money comes in the poppy trade.
Oh, wow.
The Eastern drug trade. Look, there's a long chain of he is the partner of one of the Rockefellers in one of the larger opium importing businesses. The Bush family involvement with drugs extends to Jeb later, who is a drug dealer in college. I document that with witnesses in the book. And George H.W. Bush, of course, as vice president, was the head of the task force that shipped millions of dollars into cocaine into the United States to be sold to raise money to illegally raise the Contras after the Congress cut off taxpayer money. That's the scandal known as Iran-Contra. Go read the special prosecutor's report, and you find that this is clearly the case. George Bush avoids prosecution in that case essentially by stonewalling. Returns over no documents, and refuses to be questioned. This is noted and reported by the Washington Post, but it's missing from the new biography of George Bush by John Meacham. It's a New York Times bestseller. That's really why I wrote this book. This is the antidote. This is the real backstory, not that airbrushed, whitewashed campaign biography by this fellow Meacham, who's a Pulitzer Prize winner, by the way.
Right.
Oh, my goodness. So in your opinion, because you have the inside information that most of us only dream of, so we see a lot of stuff on national television. Obviously, it's monitored and it's watered down to make us think whatever they want us to think. But in your opinion, Roger, what's really going on? How's Jeb doing in the ratings now versus, like, say, 4 weeks ago?
Well, he's out of the race now.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, I didn't. Thank you for that. It's been a long day. But where is he at now, meaning in his psyche, in your opinion?
Well, like I say, if we're talking about Jeb, he has a seat at the table where Rubio, Romney, who's just come out smoking, as they say, and Kasich, and Reince Priebus, and the billionaires, and the super PACs, and the lobbyist class have all ganged up in an attempt to stop Trump. Jeb is no longer a candidate. He can't be the candidate. He's unlikely to be the candidate of a brokered convention, having done so poorly. Remember, Mitt Romney didn't make the 2016 race because he deemed Jeb unstoppable. So he's kicking himself, number one, because he wanted to run and his family wanted to run. But a lot of his money was cross-pollinated with the Bushes, and with old man Bush and George W. Bush making phone calls to those people and pressuring them, you don't turn down former presidents.
Oh, okay.
No, you don't.
So they dried up some of Mitt's money as well. Not all of it, because a lot of it was Mormon money and his own network, but a lot of the party money was dried up for Jeb. So he chose not to run. Now he stands on the sidelines throwing rocks at Donald Trump. You know, the credit doesn't belong to the guy who stands on the sidelines and criticizes the strongman. The credit belongs to the guy in the arena. So if Mitt wants to run, it's not too late. The late filings for the primaries go as late as the end of April. He can still get on the ballot in New Jersey, California, a number of other large states.
Yeah, I hope he.
I don't think he's scared to do it now.
Yeah, and I don't get a good feeling from him. Well, I don't get a good feeling from 99.9% of them, honestly. I have a weird question. If Jeb were, and I'm not being mean when I say this, I'm being completely serious. If Jeb were more charismatic, more engaging, actually more warm, which I don't think of the Bush family as any of those things, but if they were more engaging and warm and charismatic and attractive, do you think he would have done a little bit better? Because he's got sort of a monotone.
But he used
to. No, look, his performance was terrible, but the problem is much larger than that. Right. After being lied into war and frequent questions about 9/11. All one needs to do is read the 9/11 report. Look, I'm not a conspiracy theorist in this area, but the Saudis' involvement is clear. There's 29 pages of the report that are redacted, that are still confidential. Senator Bob Graham, Democrat of Florida, has read them, and he says they pertain to Saudi financing, Saudi royal family financing of the attack on us. And of course, the Bin Ladens are retainers of and very close associates of the Saudi royal family. We also know that 28 of the hijackers were flown out of the country, on government planes. The Bin Ladens, arranged with George W. Bush. The point I'm making is, people are fed up with the Bush brand. All these things have counted, plus a sour economy, plus big bank bailouts. So George W. Bush has burned out the family name and destroyed the Republican brand at the same time. Trump is bringing the party in a whole different direction. But even a better performance by him, I don't think should have overcome the fact that the country doesn't want another Bush or another Clinton.
That's what I was going to ask you next. This is my observation of Hillary. There was a point where she could kind of pull off a little engaging exchange with people she was speaking with, even if it's to a big group of people or a small group of people. But she is starting to come off crazy. She looks like a robot. She is just spitting things out and she's matching Sanders stuff. She's starting to really regurgitate everything Sanders is talking about in a desperate way to try to get the extra voters. And I am so sick and tired of her suddenly talking about all of these murdered black people.
Yes, no, she's moving radically left
to
make sure she wins the nomination. That's going to be a disadvantage in the election.
Thank you.
I agree. I don't understand the shrill tone of it. You say a woman is shrill, they immediately say you're sexist. But she's yelling she's yelling in the microphone in every appearance I see, and she sounds hoarse.
Yes.
It's not very presidential, and it's certainly not calm. No. This woman is a consummate actress. As I indicate in my book, The Clintons' War on Women, she could be in an elevator calling her top aides motherfuckers and dumb bastards, and then the elevator opens to her event. And she's all sweetness and light. It's so nice to see you. So you're talking about a 24-carat sociopath.
We love you even more. It's so obvious. How come people can't see through that? Or is it that they don't want to see through it,
first of all, a lot of them aren't looking. A campaign is an education process.
Yeah.
Most women, millennials, they like her because all they know is that she's a woman and they see her on TV. It's up to us, who we oppose her, to educate them about her true record on women.
Yeah.
She talks endlessly about women and pay equality, but no place where she has been the boss. Not in this campaign, not in the Clinton Foundation, not in the State Department, not in the U.S. Senate has she ever paid women as much as men.
No.
She has abused all these women. Bill is in fact a sexual predator. She is an accessory after the fact in many of his sex crimes because she is the one who intimidates the witnesses.
Yeah.
And the victims. That's illegal. She's charged. She would have been chargeable, and he should have been charged. They have lived a privileged life. They have dodged many bullets. They have been very lucky. Why they're not riding off in the sunset with their ill-gotten gains and the adulation of 40% of the people or 30 or whatever it is, I don't know. It's a desire for power and greed. He looks like he has one leg in the grave. He looks terrible.
Yeah.
He's befuddled. He's not an asset. He's going to say stupid things. Last week he attacked a veteran. So let me get this straight. Draft-dodging cocaine snorter Bill Clinton attacked the guy who served his country. That's disgraceful.
While he's also breaking the laws, going to these polling booths, making people who are trying to vote for other people besides his wife turn their shirts on inside out so you can't see it.
Yeah, it's censorship. Look, as you may have heard, I was recently banned on CNN because I say things there like I say to you, and they can't handle the truth, as Jack Nicholson said. But, I had an interview with BBC, and I started to talk about Bill as a sexual predator, and they went insane. They finally cut me off. Wow. You have a stunning interview with Juanita Broaddrick on NBC. They paid Paula Jones $850,000 to settle the civil suit.
Oh, wow.
And nobody has yet been able to disprove that anything Kathleen Willey has said. There's 3. All you need is 1.
Well, I'm going to ask this because just I think yesterday, day before, the staffer that installed the email system in her home got immunity. And
What?
Well, so he took the fifth, before, so he wouldn't say why or how or what, all this good stuff. So tell me what you think's going to happen now that he got immunity.
Look, I have no particular insights on this because it obviously is still in the hands of the investigators. It's not in the decision process mode.
Right.
If I were forced, and it's interesting because Romney's attack on Trump kind of drowned out the coverage of this guy.
I know, that's what I didn't understand.
Getting immunity. It obviously indicates that they're still looking at this, and therefore no recommendation has yet been made. Everybody who knows Comey, the FBI director, people I know who know him from New York law enforcement, tell me he's a straight arrow. That he's a cop. He's a real by the book law enforcement guy. If that's true, there's no way to deny that she's broken the law. This doesn't require intent, by the way. She could go away for criminal negligence. Britt Hume said the other day, well, there's no intent. Intent is not required. Britt Hume on Fox should listen to Fox's news analyst, Judge Andrew Napolitano, who's explained this several times on air. So at some juncture, we assume that he recommends her prosecution. Now, when I was on CNN 3 weekends ago, before I was ignominiously banned in Soviet-style censorship because I'm not politically correct, I was on with Lanny Davis, who went so far as to completely deny that she's even under investigation. So I don't know what planet those folks are on, but let's assume that the FBI director recommends her prosecution, and the administration elects not to do that. That Loretta Lynch gives her a walk. I think the FBI director will resign. I think he may take 20 or 30 agents with him.
Wow.
It's now a firestorm. It's the Saturday Night Massacre. She has to carry that into an election. It's almost more damaging in a way than being indicted. If she's indicted, you see, Obama can quickly pardon her.
Oh, right.
Maybe in return for getting out of the race.
Right. I'm sure.
And stepping aside for Uncle Joe. Joe, keep him away from your children, Biden.
Oh, do you think Biden will jump in the race?
I think he's in the bullpen. Yeah, if she gets knocked out through the email process, yes.
Wow, that would be fascinating.
She can't run while she's under federal indictment. That would kind of slow your campaign down. Right. Don't you think?
Oh, definitely. Well, I know you're a Donald supporter, and I want to ask you, every candidate has their positives and negatives, and
yes.
So tell me, Donald, what do you think is some of the negatives that he has? And I know you advise him sometimes. So
yeah, I'm going to take a pass on that question.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Look, nobody is perfect. Yes, he's flawed. He just like every other political figure and every other national figure,
right.
But he has one distinction from all these other candidates, and that is that he is beholden to no one, that he marches to his own drummer. There is no lobbyist, no billionaire, no special interest, no special pleader. You can't buy Donald Trump because he's so wealthy. Whether it's $5 billion or $10 billion, what difference? Or $3 billion, what difference does it make? He is uncoached. He is unscripted. He is genuine. He's real. Everything doesn't always come out exactly right, but in terms of the broad concepts, he gets it. The country's in deep trouble in about 4 areas, and somebody who isn't a career politician has to do something about it, and it has to be somebody who is completely independent because the voters see the current system as rigged against them. Mm-hmm. They want to end the rigged game, and they can only do that by electing Trump. That is their frustration. Nothing happens because the special interests and the big moneyed interests own everything. That's the advantage he has over everybody else. Everybody else in this race is funded by some billionaire or somebody with an agenda.
Right. As
Trump himself has said, do you think the people who gave this money expect and want nothing?
Yeah, no, they don't give away money for free.
Every single candidate, it's funded by big business?
Yes.
Every single one.
Even Bernie?
Every single one.
Except for Bernie?
Except for Bernie. To his credit, he is funded by millions of small dollar contributions. Because he, like Trump, is not the toast of Wall Street. He's not the toast of the insiders and the lobbyist class. The people who are voting for Bernie are very similar to the people voting for Trump. Yeah. It's the same mindset on the left and the right. There are liberals who are disgusted with the fact that government can't get anything done because it's dominated by special interests. And there are conservatives who believe that. So the Bernie voter and the Trump voter are very similar.
Yeah, and that's what I was.
They're economically disadvantaged, and they're sick of it.
Yeah. So when, and I'm not picking on Trump. This is a legitimate question. We're literally we're just asking questions. Why do you think when Trump like picks on Megyn Kelly, why is that all of a sudden the only thing people talk about versus the other things that he may be doing right?
Well, because it's the media likes a fight. They like a dust up between celebrities. She is a beautiful and talented journalist. And she has extraordinary ratings at Fox, and Trump is an international brand and the front runner for president. So if they have a spat, that's big news. What's that song? We like dirty laundry. Now let's talk about the nuances of our economic white papers. How exciting is that? The media they need ratings, so they have to sell.
And they did.
And it's kind of a natural story.
It is a natural, but what I can't stand is why can't they talk about what they're actually there to do for the people versus keep doing this pit bull thing back and forth? Why does the media do that?
Well, it's not the media that does that. It's the candidates doing that because they need to get a leg up over the other people who are talking that night. If you go in there and you're all positive and tell what you're going to do,
Kasich.
you don't get Kasich. You don't get any headlines. I mean, when they show the flashpoints of the debate, the most exciting part, you're not in it. Now, in Kasich's case, he made a calculated decision not to attack Trump because he'd like to emerge as the alternative to Trump with as little rancor as possible. If there's a second ballot, and therefore a number of delegations that are currently pledged to Trump by state law or by party rules are no longer bound as they were on the first ballot, then some of those votes, they assume, can be moved to an anti-Trump candidate, and maybe you have a dark horse nominee. Romney would like to be that guy. Jeb wanted to be that guy after his campaign bombed out, but he did so poorly that he can't be that guy. Kasich wants to be that guy. Christie wanted to be that guy. He can't. He went over to the other side.
And he looks miserable.
Yeah, no, he looked like a hostage. He looked like a hostage video.
You can tell, not just his body language, but you can almost, it looks like he hates himself right now and that he struck a deal with the devil. That's how he looks.
Well, we'll see how it plays out. We'll see how it plays out. If he ends up as the director of Homeland Security in the Trump cabinet, I wouldn't be shocked.
Well, I'm going to go back a little bit because first George Bush president. To me, and I maybe I just can't remember this long ago, but Jeb and George Sr. kind of reminds me of the same persona when they were running. Because George Sr. was always kind of the soft-spoken, really didn't get riled up too much. But then George Jr. was kind of like, hey, it is, this good old boy.
Let me put it another way. I think George, the father, George H.W. Bush, had kind of a goofy patrician style.
Yes.
His syntax was terrible. He was not a great campaigner.
Right.
He was a hard-working campaigner, but he had he didn't really identify with people who had less privilege and money than him. And he would say goofy things that would underline that he was an aristocrat from time to time. Remember, he famously went into a supermarket and didn't know what the code reader was.
I remember that. Yeah.
When asked, when one of his staff members said, who'd been on the road with him for 7 days, said, "Look, I've got to take a half day, and go back to Washington to get some clean laundry and pack a new suitcase." Bush said, "Well, don't you have somebody who does that for you?"
Oh my God!
Yeah, that shows you where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
What now? Was it true that under the radar that Bush and Reagan were not real close?
Yes, there's no doubt about that. Reagan didn't like Bush because of his petulant performance in the famous Nashua debate, where Reagan grabbed the microphone and said, "I paid for this microphone," which brought down the House and won the New Hampshire primary for him. Remember, Bush had won the Iowa caucuses in an upset. He was surging in the polls in New Hampshire. He agreed to a one-on-one debate with Bush. The other candidates stormed the debate in a group and demanded to be admitted. Reagan agreed with them. Bush wouldn't throw in the towel. He just looked like a petulant, angry schoolchild. From that, and he melted on TV. And from that moment, Reagan never respected him. And also, the Bush people were endlessly, since his campaign was largely ex-CIA guys or current CIA guys and a bunch of washed-out WASP preppies. That was his campaign. There was just an endless stream of childish CIA-type dirty tricks
Yeah, definitely.
against Reagan. So Reagan just didn't like him. Reagan was talked into it at the convention after this elaborate scheme in which they tried to get Gerald Ford to run, and that was Kissinger and Bush. Ford was never running. He was stalling for time, so Reagan would be stuck with 15 minutes to find somebody and only one guy on the list.
Oh, no.
George H.W.
I was going to ask you, why did he pick I thought maybe it was like keep your enemies close, so I didn't know.
Well, and the other thing, here's the other thing. The other alternative was Buffalo Congressman Jack Kemp. That's who Reagan leaned to, and therefore the Bush people spread a virulent rumor that he was gay. He was most definitely not gay.
Oh.
But they had that all over the convention, and Reagan aides, of course, reported it to the governor because they wanted Bush. They had been co-opted.
Wow. Whenever everyday people do crap like that, they get in such huge trouble and get arrested or get penalized or have to pay fines or there's consequences. How come with the top 5%? And they're acting like school kids half the time right now.
Yeah, this is a phenomenon called elite deviance. That means that there are certain people at the very highest strata of our political and economic society who are so privileged, so connected, so wired, so rich that the law just doesn't apply for them. They can rape women, they can assault women, they can threaten witnesses, they can have people beaten. They can have illegal email servers. They can destroy their emails. They can use drugs. They can traffic drugs. They can pardon criminals to silence them. They can silence witnesses. They can assassinate people. This goes on, and they pay no price. I'm describing the Clintons and the Bushes.
Yeah.
And as I demonstrate in both my books, The Clintons' War on Women, and my new book, The Bush Crime Family, you can, both of which, by the way, you can get at rogerstone.com. My publisher will kill me if I don't say that. rogerstone.com, no D.
Thanks for saying it.
Or Amazon, or a bookstore. But the Bushes and the Clintons work very closely together. They profiteer together. They make millions together illegally, fleecing these charities, these fake nonprofits that they set up. This is all documented in my book, and they're constantly, rehabilitating each other. Barbara Bush says that Bill Clinton's like the fifth Bush brother, and George W. Bush says that the Clintons like his brother, which makes Hillary his sister-in-law. This is enough to make you puke.
Yes.
It is funny how many of these politicians behind the scenes, they are all buddy-buddy, and then when they're on the campaign trail, they just feel like they seem like they're completely enemies or complete opposite. And if we knew the truth, and thank God for people like Roger Stone here to bring us the truth about, Jeb Bush and the Bush family and the Clintons, and you've written many books and so well written too. And
you do your homework.
And you do your homework. So one thing I thought was funny is, it was about a year ago, it was a shoo-in, Hillary Clinton and Jeb Bush. And when they said that's going to be the two that go against each other. Why do you think it took so long for Mama and George Jr., his brother, to jump on board in South Carolina and then immediately after he loses, drops out?
Well, that was kind of the last gasp. They miscalculated that the Bush family name and the military connection was so powerful in South Carolina that they might revive Jeb. I mean, first of all, Donald Trump branding Jeb for the rest of his life as Mr. Low Energy really aggravated Barbara Bush, who's a vindictive type to begin with anyway.
Yeah, you can see that.
And George H.W. Bush is too sick to travel, so they couldn't roll him out. They rolled him out for the debate. And he pointed to Donald Trump, and he made the Sicilian throat cutting maneuver. So they can't have him out in public.
Wow.
And that was the last hurrah. I think that was the last straw. Also, I think the family had concluded that he was only hurting the family name, and it was time to get out. Now they're bent on revenge. Don't think they're out of the game. They're right at the table at the Republican National Convention. Now they are seeking their revenge, and to blaze the way for George P. Bush, the next Bush, who is Jeb's son, and the guy they're grooming to seize power and money later. Which is why the Bush crime family is still timely, despite the temporary railroading of the family's ambitions to restore the dynasty.
Do you really think, with like I said, after 9/11 and George Jr.'s reign for 8 years, do you really think that the Bush family can survive any of this? Do you think?
Here's unfortunately why they can. They, as a Karl Rove, they create their own reality. This is why Jeb and other Republicans have insisted that George Bush kept us safe. What a good job he did. And very, very few Americans understand that the Bush administration had multiple warnings about 9/11 from various federal agencies, the FBI, the CIA. They made it their way to NSA. Condi Rice knew, Colin Powell knew, but nobody connected the dots. We also know that several of the hijackers were training in Tampa, Florida. A Freedom of Information Act getting state documents shows that 23 of their neighbors or others tipped off the police that something was going on over there. Strange men, all taking flying lessons, won't talk to anybody in the neighborhood, walk around late at night. Jebb's administration, he appoints the head of the FDLA. They did nothing, zero. So, but most people don't know anything that I just told you because it's never been widely reported in the mainstream press. What's been reported is that George Bush stood up at the Billhorn and said, "We're coming after you," and that's the end of the story. 28 pages that cut right to this because the Bin Ladens fund the Carlyle Group. The Carlyle Group pays George H.W. Bush and Jim Baker millions of dollars. In other words, they are managing the Saudi money, the Bin Laden money. Is this why they use government planes to smuggle 23 Bin Ladens out of the country, at least 2 of whom have been established to have ties to terrorists and should have been questioned before they were even allowed to leave, and maybe not been allowed to leave if we were really having an investigation in a desire to arrest others if there were others.
Wow. I mean, like I said, this information that you give us, it sometimes leaves our mouths just dropped open just because it's just really hard to believe that our government, our leaders, so-called leaders that do this. I know you left the Republican Party. Are you still a libertarian?
Well, I am, but, that party is raucous too, shall we say.
Oh, really?
I left because I couldn't stomach the nomination of Mitt Romney. The fact that he was running around the country yelling, "Ronald Reagan, Ronald Reagan." In 1980, when Reagan was elected president, Mitt Romney campaigned for and supported left-wing Massachusetts Senator Paul Tsongas. Mr. Romney was an independent. He didn't become a Republican for several years later until he decided to run for governor. He has never supported Ronald Reagan that I know of, nor did he. And the idea of him as a conservative is an absurdity. The guy couldn't even sound like one. So that was the last straw for me. Plus, his agenda was the same as Obama's: endless war. Erosion of our civil liberties, massive debt, more spending, unsound money, runaway Fed doing whatever they want, foreign interventionist foreign policy. Look, I'm not an isolationist. I know there's bad people in the world. Right. I know there are people out there who don't mean us well, who mean us harm, but I'm also not an interventionist. I think we should go around the globe looking for trouble, looking places to spend lives and money. This I do know. Under Donald Trump, there will not be one wasted drop of American blood or one wasted American dollar.
Wait, what? Say that again?
I said under a Donald Trump, there will not be one wasted drop of American blood or one wasted American dollar in your foreign policy.
And so define wasted from that perspective. Because
we're not going to march off to wars that aren't in our interest.
Okay.
Or that we have no intention of winning. We're not going to go to the national credit card to borrow $880 million to bump off Gaddafi so we can insert the Muslim Brotherhood who hate our guts.
I can see that. I can see that.
Gaddafi had renounced his nuclear ambitions, and he was sharing all of his intelligence. He had become a U.S. asset. Yeah, he's a distasteful guy, but he had come over to the West and was an ally of the United States. We run him out, and we inserted madmen who now hate our guts and won't deal with us, plan to destroy us, joining the national jihad, the international jihad. So that's a wasted dollar. Any blood, in this case dollars, because we had to borrow the money to pay for $1 billion bombing. We don't have that kind of cash sitting around.
No. Wow. Well, Roger, I mean, you never disappoint. You really don't, and you always have a slot open here at Truth Be Told. Very fascinating for the people that tuned in halfway through. It's Roger Stone. You can go to rogerstone.com. Most bookstores, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
You can get it on Amazon, but it's Jeb and the Bush Crime Family, The Inside Story of an American Dynasty. It was released on February 16th, and shortly after that, Jeb Bush dropped out of the race. So
That's right. And also,
Cause effect.
That's right.
and that's what it's about. And also check out his other book, The Clintons' War on Women. And again, you can go to rogerstone.com. And of course, they are available in all the major retailers around the country.
Well, again,
Gents, many thanks.
no, thank you so much. Again, come back anytime, and I cannot wait.
Thanks, Roger.
All right, thank you. All right, you're listening to Truth Be Told with Tony and Eddie. I'm Tony Sweet.
I'm Eddie Connor.
And you can listen to this broadcast on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Stitcher. Go to our YouTube channel and just type in Truth Be Told with Tony and Eddie, and you're going to find us there. So, all right, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you next week. Go to truthbetoldwebtv.com, find out who's coming up next week. All right.